Hello, welcome to our channel. Today we are going to talk about an interesting topic, and this is one of the very critical topics in any kind of system design or any kind of distributed applications. Traffic failure handling pattern, right? So a basic need in your any kind of distributed system is that one system or one service is going to call an API or call another service, right? And failures are inevitable, right? How do you handle and what are the kind of tuning mechanisms that you do so that you build a resilient and robust system, right? So let's get started. First, let's look at, so say there are two services, right? Service A and service B, right? In a general pattern, what will happen, say service A is doing a request to service B, an API call, and service B is responding back with a response, right? In between, service B might be doing multiple things. Like for example, first thing is to get a connection established, right? Next thing is doing a request transmission, right? Validation, request validation, all those things, right? Third is the core business logic execution, which can be read, writing to database or whatever it is, right? And finally, the response generation, right? And at that point of time, after the response is generated, then it is going to respond back with the whatever response that the API was called for, right? Now, in this scenario, there can be failures, right? If there are failures, what will happen? Obviously, if there is an immediate failure, it will return back with some kind of a failure response or something. But there can be scenarios where service B is taking some time to respond back from that failure, right? It is taking time to establish the connection, or it is taking time to run the business logic where it is doing some read from a database and the database is probably intermittently down, so it is taking some time, right? In this scenario, what will service A do in that kind of a case, right? When service B is going to fail, but it is taking a lot of time in failing even, right? What you do is you apply timeouts to your calls. That is basically timeouts avoid keeping systems from waiting unreasonably long, right? In this case, service A is going to wait for service B to send a response, right? Whether it's a success or a failure, that's a separate issue. But at least service B has to send a response. Otherwise, callers of service A are in a hanging state, right? So what you do is you basically call the request from service A to service B, applying timeout, right? So basically what you are saying is service A is calling service B with a timeout of say 1 second. If within that 1 second I don't get a response back from service B, whether it's a successful response or a failure response, whatever it is, but even if I don't get a response back, then you fail the request altogether and immediately respond back. Me being service A, I cannot wait more than 1 second, right? That is what a timeout is when you are doing a call from one service to another service. Now, timeout is a broad category. There are multiple types of timeouts. Like for example, there is a timeout called connection timeout. The time it is taking to establish the connection itself, right? So say the entire process takes 500 milliseconds, right? But the connection establishment takes say 80 milliseconds. So you might not want to, if the connection establishment itself is taking a long time, you might not even want to go to the business logic or the request validation, response generation, because those will not even occur, right? So in that case, you can specifically mention that my request is with a connection timeout of 100 milliseconds. If there is a connection established within 100 milliseconds, good. Otherwise, you fail the request and respond back with a failure, right? There is another kind of timeout which is called a request timeout. The request timeout is basically the end-to-end connection establishment, request validation, business logic, response generation. The end-to-end request to response time is called the request timeout. Then there are other kind of timeouts also, right? For example, read timeout, write timeout, where you specifically mention when you are calling one service to another service, you are specifying what is the specific timeout that you are waiting for. Are you waiting for a request timeout of say 500 milliseconds or a connection timeout of 100 milliseconds, right? Or a read timeout if it is a read get API call, a read timeout of say less than or say 200 milliseconds, right? So you can specifically specify timeouts which basically help in the calling service, in this case service A, avoiding situations where it is kept in a hanging state, right? A waiting state. It doesn't even know whether service B is going to respond, when it is going to respond. So in that, it avoids that kind of a situation. But then that is one way to forcefully fail the call if the service B is not responding, right? But after the call has failed, what will service A do now, right? The first call to service B failed. What should it do? One option is obviously it is going to respond back with a failure to the caller of service A itself, saying that the call to service, my downstream service failed, so the entire call failed, right? But another thing that you can do is retry. Retry basically masks the failure with eventual success, right? Basically, what you do is, so say same scenario, service A, service B, service A is calling service B for an API or something with a request, but say that request failed, right? What you do at that point of time, that can be failure due to connection timeout or request timeout or any kind of normal failure also. Instead of responding back to the client that, for example, the caller of service A saying that the entire request failed in the first attempt, you can again request back, right? You can again request, and this is another retry that you are doing. This is the first retry that you are doing, another call to service B, checking if that can succeed in the first retry attempt. That is the second attempt, right? Say if the second attempt also fails, right? Then what you can do, you can send another request. This will be retry attempt number 2 and the request attempt number 3, right? At this point of time, the call might succeed and it might give you back the response that you are looking for, right? So retries basically help to eventually help succeed the call if there is a failure that is going on in a downstream service, right? So that is what retries are. But then retries, here what we did is you got a failure from service B and you immediately retried another call. Again, you got a failure, you immediately retried the third time, right? But instead of immediate retry, say if service B is already in a failed state, if you are retrying and multiple times and immediately, you are basically overloading service B, right? Service B is probably already suffering some kind of a situation where it is not able to handle calls, right? It is in a failed state. If you are overloading that service with more calls, right, immediately, it is not going to help. And more often than not, you are going to get the failure again back in your retries also. So what you do is you implement backoffs. So backoffs means, so say same scenario, service A, service B. Service A is calling service B with a request. The service failed. You are going to retry, but you are going to retry with a fixed wait of 30 milliseconds, right? So you're backing off 30 milliseconds. So what you're saying is if service B is down and if it has failed, I'm going to wait, I being service A, going to wait 30 milliseconds before attempting another request, right? So now you again call a request, call service B with another request, say that also failed. So that is retry attempt number 1. Say that also failed. Then you again wait for 30 milliseconds, right? That is a fixed wait backoff that you have implemented in your request call. And you are again calling service B with a request and say this time the request succeeded and sends back the correct response, right? So what you are basically doing here is you are basically waiting. You are doing a request call from one service to another service with the configuration with fixed wait backoff of 30 milliseconds. So if there is a failure, you are going to retry the call, but you are going to wait for 30 milliseconds and then you are going to attempt another retry, right? So that is one way of applying retry with a backoff, fixed wait. But another strategy in fixed wait is one strategy, but another strategy is to apply exponential backoff. So let's say service A is calling service B with a request, the service failed, service B failed. Now you are going to wait exponential backoff of 30 milliseconds. So the first attempt, what you are doing is you are waiting 30 milliseconds, calling another request to service B, say that also failed. Now you are going to wait for 60 milliseconds. So first time you waited 30 milliseconds, now you are waiting 60 milliseconds. Then you again send a request to service B, say that call succeeded and responded back with the response, right? So what you are doing here is instead of fixed wait 30 milliseconds every time last time that we saw, here you are exponentially waiting with a factor of 2. First wait time you waited for 30 milliseconds, the next attempt you waited for 60 milliseconds. If that also failed, then you could have waited for 120 milliseconds. If that also failed, you would have waited for 240 milliseconds. So basically what you are doing is you are giving exponentially more time to service B to recover, which essentially means that you are giving more time to service A to get a response back successfully, right? So say in this case, you made total 3 calls to service B from service A in 90 milliseconds, correct? So first was 30 milliseconds, then was 60 milliseconds, so total 90 milliseconds. So you made 3 calls in 90 milliseconds, and at the 90th millisecond call, you got the response back, which is successful. But if you applied fixed wait, then you would have made 3 calls in 60 milliseconds, and if service B is recovering in 90 milliseconds, so your third call would have also failed, right? So you would have had to made another retry, the fourth attempt, which would have been 90 milliseconds, and that would have responded back with a success. So exponential backoff is another strategy where you're basically waiting with a factor of some number, so that you were giving more time to service B to recover, right? And without overloading service B on a fixed period of time, because that also, now when there is a distributed system, there are multiple calls and multiple services, and all those calls actually chain up, right? So service A calling service B, calling service C, calling service D. So if you are attempting a fixed retry at every layer, so you can understand, so service A to service B is 3 attempts, then service B to service C is another 3 attempts, so 3 into 3, 9. B to C to D is another 3 attempts, so 9 into 3, 27. So by the time it reaches the 4th or the 5th service, it's a retry storm, right? So you are, because you are fixed at a fixed time, you are waiting and you are retrying multiple times, right, at the fixed time. So at 90th millisecond, all those calls will chain up, and it is going to overload service D with 27 calls, right? So which is where exponential backoffs help, because it is giving more time. And when you think of this service chain kind of a mechanism, you will understand that this is going to give every layer, every service more time to act. So which basically means that ultimately service D is going to get much less calls, and it is going to get much more time to recover, right? But having said that, with exponential backoff also, there can be situations where these timings match. I mean, ultimately, it's just a factor of a number, right? So this factor can eventually match up, and there can be a scenario where at the same time, multiple calls are actually correlated, and it hits the service D or say service B at that point of time, right? So what we do is you add jitter, right? So jitter is basically and adding randomness to your calls, right? So if you notice in this diagram, between the first and the second request, there's a random jitter that is added. That can be 17 milliseconds. Between request 2 and request 3, if another added another random jitter, which can be 23 milliseconds. So randomness basically helps in breaking that pattern. Fixed is a pattern, right? Exponential is a pattern because there is a factor. Jitter adds randomness, which basically, if there is a pattern, it always correlates to come towards the same, it converges towards the same point, and that is what jitters break, right? And jitter is not only applicable for retries, basically traffic to all our services, right, including both control plane and data plane services, they all tend to spike a lot, right? The spikes of traffic can be very short, right, and are often hidden by, like, the metrics that you are looking at. Those metrics can be aggregated, so the spikes are often hidden. So when you are building systems, you should consider adding some jitter to all types of calls and all types of timers, periodic jobs, scheduled work, or any kind of delayed work which work at a specific time interval. Because whenever there is a specific time interval, there is a possibility of that correlation happening and all those times matching at the same point and having a request burst, right? That is avoided with adding jitter, with adding randomness to the calls, and this basically helps to spread out that spike of traffic or work and makes it easier for downstream services to scale or to recover, right? So basically, backoffs and jitters improve resource utilization, right, and reduces congestion on systems. So that is where backoffs and jitters help, instead of normal retries, immediate retries, and with fixed or exponential even backoffs at sometimes help in reducing the congestion on downstream systems, right? So a rule of thumb to end it all. So you have a service calling another service. In that call, you should always apply timeouts. Call should be always surrounded with a timeout. That can be connection timeout, request timeout, read timeout, write timeout. Basically, to wait till the call fails. I mean, not to wait till the service is trying to recover, right? Rather, you are as a caller handling what should be the failure time, right? If it is taking too long, fail it and return back, right? If it fails, then you should apply retries. You might apply 5 retries or 3 retries or 9 retries, because depending on traffic, you might want to, if one call fails, you might want to retry another time and another time. But retries should not be immediate. It should have a backup strategy. It should have some wait time. The wait time can be fixed, can be exponential. And last but not the least, you should always add a jitter, right? Some kind of randomness in the system, which basically breaks that correlation and that pattern. So that's a good practice, and you should also, and these values, like a way to choose these values is often to take a look at your latency metrics, like your downstream services, how much time respective API calls are taking. Based on that, you can basically come out with the perfect timing and the tuning that is needed. What should be the connection timer? It should be 350 milliseconds maybe, or a request timeout can be 500 milliseconds, right? Retries can be 3 with exponential factor of 1.5, right? With jitter of adding a salt to add some randomness, right? So those kind of tuning can be done when you look at the latency metrics. You should also make adjustments when you retry, depending on whether the retry attempt should be done or not, because not all errors are retriable. I mean, there can be errors and there can be faults, right? So some are retriable, some are non-retriable. So accordingly, you should also adjust your service to service calls, right? So this was an overview of the traffic failure handling patterns. Hopefully this was useful.